Hello everybody, this is General Yanis. So today in Death Card Tactics we are going to be looking at the state of Death Card in 2021. Where are we at? Where do we stand competitively? And how do we, what are some tough matchups for us? How has 2021 evolved? And looking a bit ahead in 2022, what can come? So with no further ado, let's get started. So today, the 14th of December, 10 days to Christmas Eve, and I have a local tournament coming up on Sunday, RTT, a smaller tournament. Hopefully, it will not be cancelled due to lockdowns. Excited to play a second tournament and fine tune my tournament list. Hopefully, I can make some video giving you the highlights of this coming up. But in this video, as I said, I will be reviewing 2021, the year where we got our new codex, and how do we stack up in the meta. So we're going to be looking quickly at the new codex highlights, basically what is the status there, what types of death card competitives list have emerged during this period. Then we will be looking at some data from 40k stats, the meta rankings overall of the different factions, and then specifically meta rankings for Death Card playing the other factions. Before I start, very big thanks to my patrons. If you want to support my efforts, please visit my Patreon page. The link is here in the description. And with no further ado, let's get started. So we hit off 2021 with a new Death Card Codex release, and that was a bit chaotic. We were the third or fourth Codex to be released for the 9th edition. We were basically after Space Marines and Necrons, I think also maybe Dark Angels. But the Death Card was hit with warp delays. There was Codex delay due to the lockdowns and COVID situation. Of course, also quite fitting with the Nurgle theme coming out, that the whole world was in turmoil. We also have the Brexit, the lockdowns, and a lot of people had their codex, me included, stuck in customs or transported somewhere. Or yeah, it was a mess. I remember when we were trying to calculate all these the things from our new codex, and I didn't have access to the codex, and some people helped me to find something online, and I could do the calculations, but it was like every day just waiting for the mailman to come with the codex. And so finally it came. Overall, it was a good codex for us, and I think for a very brief moment, the Death Card was the toughest in the 9th edition and top of the meta. But I think, unfortunately for us, most people couldn't take advantage of that. I mean, you get a bit spotlight when your Death Card, when your codex comes, and then we all know that the power creep is eating up our advantages. But when when it was our hour to shine a little bit, there was lockdowns, restrictions. Very little tournaments were held. There were a few in Australia, etc. Nothing here. We couldn't take advantage of our good moments. So I think we have to wait for the next for the next time. So the codex highlights, of course, a lot of reviews in this channel and elsewhere. Of course, we have the new contagion mechanic, and it was really strong, especially toughness 4, toughness 3 armies, bringing them down to toughness 3, toughness 2. Quite strong contagions. Our terminators and our lords were buffed. The movement that was quite substantial. Our demon engines were buffed, hitting on 3 pluses. Our we had some popular units getting point increases, like the Mephitic Blightholder that was used, let's say, in 3 units of 3 before. Now it got a 40 point, almost 40% point increase. The new units came up in the spotlight, like the 30 Blowthrones with the mower having 12 attacks, entropy cannons for the Plague Scroller hitting on 3 pluses and making the supreme D3 plus 3 damage. So a lot of good things, new and good things with this codex. The durability was a bit the most controversial. We got the -1 to incoming damage instead of our 5+ feel no pain. The -1, of course, can help us versus a lot of weapons and can be quite helpful in some metas, but losing the 5+ feel no pain means, for example, that we don't have any mortal wound protection other than a couple of denies. So it shifted a little bit the focus of the durability. We got to 2 wound marines and 3 wound terminators, and the 3 wound terminators with a -1 incoming damage moving faster, and 4+ invul saves, keeping them, became quickly the the choice of infantry for our armies in general. I think also our codex introduced kind of a lot of restrictions and some rules that were sounding good, but then they were basically applying only to a few units in our codex, and a lot of these restrictions and stuff like that. That it's kind of stupid. I don't know. It's maybe you could say for balance, but looking at some of the other codexes, they get some benefits that they can apply for all units, or everybody can get a feel no pain or whatever. We are like, yeah, if you're Bubonica starters and you use a plague weapon and you sing a song, a special chime with the bells 3 times, maybe you can get this buff. I mean, it was a bit odd, and I think we had, of course, the Lord's jealousy in the beginning, only one lord per detachment. That was including the demon prince, and then suddenly our HQ options were really hindered and restricted. Thankfully now the demon prince doesn't follow this silly rule. Then it was introduced the poxwalkers and cultist restrictions. You can't take as much of them compared to you need the bubonic astartes infantry. So we could have a good use of a patrol where we want to minimize our troops, but now we need to bring expensive terminators to do that. The poxwalkers, for example, are restricted and cannot do actions. So it was a lot of restrictions in this play. And looking at something like Drukhari, they can field minimum units of troops for 40 points instead of us. We cannot even field a 50-point unit if we don't take something else. A few of our units had a core. The inexorable advance rule, again, only applicable for bubonic astartes. So, for example, there was some nice rules for shooting the heavy weapons in point blank with no penalty, but then this is not applicable to our demon engines, which is our best vehicle. So it's a bit like, yeah, when you read the rule, it sounds very nice, but then it doesn't apply for what you want it to apply. There was the big controversy with our inexorable advance not allowing the terrain to slow us down. Then it was slowing us down. Then now we are not slowed down by the terrain, so that's good. But again, for example, poxwalkers are slowed down by terrain because they're not bubonic starters, and the move and shoot heavy weapon without penalty applies only to Blightlord with Reaper autocannon. We don't have anything else. So it's a bit, yeah, very good rules, inexorable advance, but not universally applicable. And then we saw the evolution of new rules and Death Card competitive lists. I think Plague Marines quickly lost their spots in the list for the Terminator and Poxwalker combo. So the Plague Marines, unfortunately, their lack of invul and only discussing resilience, that's okay. But toughness 5, there was a lot of enemies maybe bypassing toughness 5, and yeah, bypassing we don't have invul saves. A lot of our armies could get +1 to their damage, etc., etc. And then suddenly you would be losing a whole unit of Plague Marines, losing 115, 120, 130 points and don't having a save where with Terminators and Poxwalkers you had something. Poxwalkers were cheaper, the Terminators were much more durable. The cheap Poxwalkers also, and the restriction made that you needed to use, let's say, this combo competitively. Then we had the FAQs for the Forge World models, and we can use them in Death Card, so that was really significant. And then it was the birth of the Volkite Contemptor and the Taliman combo that was really strong. And basically, you see, this is probably what's keeping us in contention, the ability to take the Volkite Contemptors with Taliman. Shortly after our codex arrived, also the expansion mission Warzone Charadon came at the same time due to the Death Card delays, and this introduced the Terminus Est build and no vehicles allowed, but you can get very fast Poxwalkers, and this introduced some new type of lists that some people have used to win tournaments with, or get at least good positions with. So quite different style than normal, let's say normal conventional Death Card lists. And then we had the FAQs that allows us to summon demons without losing our contagion, and then it opened up for some other builds with Epidemius. So I think looking at the current situation, I think Death Card right now has 4 types of competitive lists, 3.5, let's say. So I think a conventional Death Card competitive list would build on the strongest units in our army. That would be, let's say, Terminators and Poxwalker combo, Blight Lords, Death Shroud, and Poxwalkers, Plagueburst Crawlers with Entropy Cannons for the vehicle shooting, 30 Bloodthorn with Mower, a very good Marine killer, the Volkite Contemptors, and then the two best Virion, Taliman and Foul Blightspawn, and then some choice of HQ. I think if you look a lot of the death card list you see right now are basically a combination of this unit, and you can have a small variations here and there, but this is the theme basically. I also played this type list, but I can't let go of my Plague Marine, so at least one unit of Plague Marine is always part of my list, but I know that it will be more competitive to go only Terminators and Poxwalkers. The typical plague companies for this is Inexorable and Mortarion's Anvil. You could also do something with Ferryman, but those I think are the most, the strongest choices for competitive list. A variation of this conventional list is to add Mortarion, and then a combination of these units here. This is what I took to my tournament, where I got a small tournament though, but I got a third place there. But basically combining again the best units and adding Mortarion there. Mortarion semi-competitive in the beginning of 2021. He was quite competitive. Not a lot of units, not a lot of armies could deal with him. Now a lot of codexes have tools to deal with him, mortal wounds and shooting and what have you. Then we also have the death card Terminus Est, where we have basically Typhus, not even needed to be Typhus, but a Lord, a Typhus, Demon Prince, Plaguecaster, etc. Then having a horde of Poxwalkers and Terminators, and you take Taliman again and Foul Blightspawn probably, but here you are restricted to not having vehicles, but again you can make a strong list with this horde type infantry. Again, I think a lot of armies could deal with a lot of Poxwalkers with a lot of shooting. Then you have your Blight Lords and Death Shroud as a second wave. Could be interesting to use. And there was some good results, good success with 100 Poxwalker list in London Grand Tournament. Finally, the final option for competitive list is the mechanized death card. So basically it's the opposite of Terminus Est, where basically you use Outrider and Spearhead detachments with loads of you loading up on demon engines. You can take Plagueburst Rollers and Defilers and Mephitic Blight Haulers to get the points up. You get the 30 Bloodthorns with Mowers, etc. Demon Prince, Demon Engines, and then you can summon Epidemius for the tally. You could also build with some other vehicles. You can also bring Volkite Contemptors in this type of list. You can also add a little bit of infantry, but this is, let's say, in the extreme infantry-free death card type of competitive list. So I think this summarizes the competitive list, and it, when we look at this, we can see that there is quite a big variation with that. We can play death card and we can play several games a week, but we can have different experience if we take a zombie horde or only demons or a mixed and Mortarion, etc., etc. Looking at the evolution of the meta in 2021, of course, the new codices steadily came out in 2021, and I think especially when the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Drukhari came, I think it was quite evident that there was a high power creep ongoing and pushing death card down, and yeah, you didn't hear about very big successes for death card. The latest releases where we had the Grey Knights, I think this is a very strong codex, and it's a good counter to Death Guard. The Grey Knights are very tough to beat. The Death Guard losing protection from mortal wounds also make Death Guard quite vulnerable to Thousand Suns. The Thousand Suns have the Aura Relic to, let's say, negate the Disgusting Resilience for one unit, and then with mortal wounds that basically Death Guard is unprotected against. Thousand Suns, I think, feel very strong against Death Guard. They will be struggling more than Death Guard versus certain armies, but in a matchup, Thousand Suns and Death Guard, yeah, Thousand Suns have the advantage, I think. So all in all, we were like basically coming down the pecking order in the rankings. So if we look then at the current win and loss ratio of the factions and taking the tournaments played the last 3 months, I think this is data August to November, and I took this data from 40kstats.com, so very nice page summarizing data from best coast pairings and some others. Of course, this is not a total view, but it gives you a good indication here. So we see that the Drukhari, Admech, and the Grey Knights are the three codexes, the three factions with the highest win rate. They have 60% or higher. Drukhari and Adeptus Mechanicus 62, 63% winning. So not very balanced here. Ideally, you would lie around. Everything should lie around 50-50 here, but of course, this is not possible in such a complex game. I think also with the balance slate corrections, this was especially taking a toll on Admech, making them more expensive. So I guess going forward, Drukhari will, let's say, emerge higher, and maybe Adeptus Mechanicus will go down a little bit. Maybe Grey Knights will come up. Death Guard, we are at a quite decent spot, I think. We have almost a 50-50 win rate. So it seems like we have on paper we have a fighting chance, but we are not, of course, we don't have the heavy advantage to win. We have, of course, heavy advantage versus some older codices, etc. But as more and more factions will get codices, for example, what will happen with the custodes that already are in a good position, and then point corrections coming, or the Tau, or now we also get the everything that hasn't been updated and becomes updated. How will that fare? Interesting enough, Chaos Demons is quite high. Let's see what happens when they get their codex. So if we then look specifically of the matchups of Death Guard versus the other factions, I mean, what we saw on the previous page was, let's say, the global results. Overall, we see some factions stronger than others, but how some of them are, let's say, more or less at the disadvantage facing each other. So I think my thoughts before I looked at the data basically is that Death Guard, the overall trait, we have a very strong melee army. Basically, all our units have a good melee, good special weapons for melee. Our characters can hit trucks, etc. In the shooting, we're not a super shooty army, but we can do okay thanks to the Volkite Contemptors and the Plaguebear Scrollers. So you can have some decent shooting, but it's not, let's say, the ace of Death Guard. And the durability, we have a high durability, let's say, but it's not helping us to mortal wounds. It's not helping us against poison weapons that bypass toughness. So durability is high, but again, you can see, like in my analysis of the thick city Drukhari list, that the Drukhari durability can be as high, if not higher, than Death Guard under some conditions. And of course, our big, let's say, disadvantage playing the game is that we are quite slow. Of course, we have some fast units. You can build a demon engine list and have flyers, etc. Then you get suddenly a fast Death Guard unit. But if you just play conventional list, we are quite slow. We don't have 20-inch moves, auto advance, flies, double moves, whatever, that other units have. And of course, being slow and good in melee requires you to have high durability, because you have to get up the board to contest the game, do damage to the opponent, and then you need to be surviving that. If we can't survive that because the opponent just shoots us over the table, we are in severe disadvantage. So I think where the matchups where Death Guard has advantage is I'm not really afraid to face any melee oriented armies that like to charge and come for you and just race across the board and come for you, because I think with our Foul Blightspawn aura and our own very high melee, this is a matchup that we have the tools to do that. So we can face the orcs. I think maybe the orcs with a lot of buggies and shooting was more a problem, but now this has been a bit corrected. But let's say Blood Angels, Wolves, even if Drukhari are very melee oriented, I'm not so worried about them. If they are fast around and getting the objectives and shooting at us and etc., they are very dangerous. The old codices we have advantage over, the Necrons, etc. Now let's see with Necrons getting the buffs and a lot of core units. Space Marine armies in general, we have a quite good advantage, taking them down in toughness. They are not as durable as Death Guard. We are better in melee. They are maybe a little bit better in shooting, but our durability helps there. We have a couple of codices factions that I think we are quite evenly matched. So I think the Battle Sisters so far, from my experience at least, this has been the closest fought and very fun games, because it has been that both armies had a lot of give and take here. So I think if I would play something that I wanted to have a very evenly matched, it will be Battle Sisters. And I think also Custodes could be quite evenly matched. Let's see now what happens when Custodes get their codex. Maybe they become much harder to beat. The main concerns for Death Guard, I think, is armies that are very high, very good shooting, like Adeptus Mechanicus, their Skitari Rangers with buffs, etc. Just plucking off Mortarion, no problem. Grey Knights also have good shooting. Thousand Suns also have better shooting than, for example, our Bolter Fire is terrible. The Thousand Suns Bolter Fire is lethal, let's say. More anything that does a lot of mortal wounds, like the Grey Knights and the Thousand Suns, a big concern. Surviving a Thousand Suns psychic phase, you need a lot of screening. You need to position yourself. But if they can just smite and doombolt their way through, the Terminators, nothing. Yeah, we are basically unprotected from mortal wounds. Of course, very fast armies that are durable and can do damage, like Drukhari and also Adeptus Mechanicus. They were also quite fast. That's of course a big issue as well, because we are quite slow and our shooting is, let's say, okay, but not the best in the game. So looking then, what do the stats say about this analysis? So basically we see here the Death Guard win rates versus other factions, and this is again with the same tournaments for the last 3 months, taking from 40k stats. So here we see again something like Chaos Space Marines or the normal Marines. We have good win rates, more than 50%, something like Necrons, Tyranids, etc. Astra Militarum, Imperial Knights, we are at quite a good advantage. With Admech and Grey Knights is our greatest disadvantage. We are just winning, let's say 35% of the games. So the Adeptus Mechanicus, Grey Knights, and the Thousand Suns, as predicted, basically we are at a very big disadvantage. At Drukhari, we are also at a disadvantage, but not as much as for some of the others. I think we are better equipped to deal with Drukhari. Not that it's easy and we have an advantage, but we're a bit better than other armies there. So we are a bit, we are a bit a scissor there. They are a paper, but So again, Thousand Suns, Grey Knights, Adeptus Mechanicus, and Drukhari and Chaos Demons for some reason are a big bad matchups. And then when we see Battle Sisters, interesting enough, we have a 50-50 win against them. So it also verifies my experience playing this Adepta Sororitas. Really close fought and fun games. And Orcs also, I guess if we get more advantage of Orcs if they don't play so many buggies. So this basically is the summary of that. So we may have a 50-50 win, let's say globally, but we have severe disadvantages against these top codexes, and we have some big advantages over some of these leftover older codexes. So summary and final thoughts. 2021, a long year, starting in lockdown and delays with our new codex, and maybe ending in lockdowns again. Our codex has been decent. I still have a few issues with these silly restrictions on the rule applicability. It could be nice if they could fix that a little bit. I mean, we will not be getting such a huge advantage if we could just bring Poxwalkers without other units. Marines, Plague Marines need a buff to be playable again. I always take them, but I know they are not the most competitive. The good thing is that I think I really like that there are several Death Guard builds that seem to be viable, or more or less, and this gives for some interesting choices and variety of play. Looking, for example, at how I would build a Thousand Suns list, I don't think there is super much variability there. It would take Scarab Terminators, we take Rubric Marines. All the HQ choices are basically good, and then you have a few options to choose by. It will not rapidly change crucially change the layout. While in Death Guard we have this vehicle-free or terminal, like say infantry-free units that's quite interesting to match up and get a bit different play styles. In the meta currently we have a 50-50 win rate. It gives us a fighting chance, but not leading in any way. Let's see how the power creep will continue and if we will slide further down in the meta. The Codex creep, as I said, is still hurting us, and our toughest matchups are Admech, Grey Knights, Thousand Suns, and Drukhari. So what do you think about this analysis? How has Yon 2021 been play-wise? What are your thoughts about the competitive list, about the meta and our bad matchups? I'll try to make calculations for how we can beat Grey Knights and Adeptus Mechanicus. If you have some good ideas, please let me know. For Adeptus Mechanicus, I'm thinking the Demon Engine list probably is the better one because our infantry will just die to their Skitari. Grey Knights, I don't know, it's like shooting them with Volkites from very big distance and not letting them come close with the Dread Knights, but it's very tough. And they have such a good secondaries. But yeah, let me know in your comments your thoughts and ideas. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe to my channel, helping the channel grow. And I really appreciate your support and all your comments. If you want to further support my efforts, please visit my Patreon page. And with these words, General Yanis is signing out. Stay safe out there, and bye-bye.